What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network. Today we're talking the July 6, 2020 edition of Raw Talk, featuring Charlie Caruso, Samoa Joe as always, and their special guests, Ruby Riott and Titus O'Neil. So I think last week was the tag team edition, where they had on the Viking Raiders, Sasha Banks and Bayley, and then they had on the Iconics as well. I forgot what the other tag team was. They had a ton of tag teams on last week. This week, although it was a longer show at almost 23, 24 minutes, they only had two guests. And I like the format this week because they gave more time to each respective guest. I mean, they went a little long in the beginning, which I'll get into right now, with Charlie and Samoa Joe talking about the eye for an eye stipulation. I guess it's part of the show where they recap what we just saw on Raw. But like the eye for an eye shit, I just think it's complete garbage. I mean, I guess we'll see what they have in mind for it. But like, if the stipulation is literally to gouge the other person's eye out, I have no interest. No thank you. I have no idea what exactly that's going to entail. And I'm not exactly sure the company knows either. So they discussed that for a while. Samoa Joe said it's almost too sadistic because it's very, very rare that he says that he's not looking forward to seeing a certain match or whatever. But in this case, he isn't, because he's going to have to sit ringside for someone else gouging out someone else's eye out. So, yeah, he said it would almost be too sadistic, the match stipulation, that is. Charlie said Dominic may no longer have a fully functioning father if he was to lose his eye. Just a bunch of just crap. You could skip right over that. When they get to Ruby Riott, though, she was awesome. I thought this was a good episode because Ruby Riott's interview was great, and then Titus O'Neil had absolutely nothing to do with storyline, but it doesn't even matter because what he had to say was awesome, and I'll get to that momentarily. So I thought both guests really hit it out of the park this week. Not so much as entertaining as last week, but very good in a different way. So Ruby Riott, one of the first things she says when she's being interviewed by Samoa Joe and Charlie Caruso is that she didn't, quote-unquote, dump Liv Morgan. Despite, contrary to popular belief, she didn't dump her former Riott Squad member. She just didn't think Liv needed her anymore. She was gone for 10 months. She left, she said, as the leader of the Riott Squad, which is not accurate, because when she got hurt in late April, the Riott Squad was already no more. They already broke the three of them up. Liv Morgan already went to SmackDown. Ruby Riott was on Raw. Sarah Logan was on Raw. I don't know if Ruby and Sarah continued to team. I don't remember. I think on house shows they did. But overall, the group was already broken up. But they're saying that Liv didn't need her anymore, and that made her mad. And she also brings up how she hasn't won since she's been back. And as I've said before, I'll go a step further here. She has not won a match since February 2019. I'm not sure what match that would have been. Granted, that's only a 2-month window. But she didn't win really at all on the road to WrestleMania that year. She didn't win coming out of WrestleMania. I remember she got squashed by Ronda Rousey on back-to-back nights. At the Elimination pay-per-view, at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view in a minute or two. And they had a bit more of a competitive match on Raw. And that was also a very decisive win for Ronda Rousey. She lost a bunch on Raw to Becky Lynch, among other people. So, yeah, she hasn't exactly had a lot of luck in the last year. Despite returning back in February or March or whatever, earlier this year she had returned, right after the Royal Rumble. It might have been the night after the Rumble, if I remember correctly, or maybe it was 8 days later. Either way, they talk about how, how she hasn't really won a lot. She hasn't had a lot of great success, and I'm glad they acknowledge that, because usually when they acknowledge someone's losing streak, it's leading somewhere, and they just haven't been losing for no reason. I'm hoping this means that, she comes back, like Kurt Hawkins, about a year ago, when he won his first match in forever with Zack Ryder at WrestleMania, won the tag team titles, but in this case, it would be with Liv Morgan, and it would be the WWE Women's Tag Team titles, so we'll see if that's where they're going with this. But she says that she doesn't really know where her identity is anymore, and she worked really, really hard to come back, and she always had this vision of what it would be like to be back in the ring. So far, that vision hasn't really come to light. It has not exactly been what she envisioned upon training for her return. It's been exactly the exact opposite. It's been a complete nightmare, losing, and more losing. So she has to find me. Not me specifically, but in her words, she said, I have to find me. She has to go find herself. And she thinks that process and getting back on the right track starts with righting the wrongs that she's made. And I'm assuming that dates back to her main roster debut a couple of years ago, because she debuted as a heel, which I thought was bizarre at the time because she worked so well as a babyface in NXT, so I thought that was weird. But I guess maybe that means patching things up with Liv Morgan, and she got emotional talking about it, and her goal right now is just to shut the Iconics up, and she wants to make them regret what they've done to her up to this point. So again, I thought the Ruby Riott interview was great, and I do think that is leading to a reunion with Liv Morgan, I'm hoping. But yeah, so far, so good. I thought this was, the story so far is so good. The Iconics winning matches, I know it's part of the story. Peyton Royce is fine. Billie Kay's match with Ruby Riott last night, Ruby Riott is really good, but, oof. Yeah, that was not good. That was rough. So hopefully, they can bounce back. Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan beat the Iconics, going to win the tag team titles. We'll soon see. But I thought this was a great interview. I thought this was really well done. Ruby Riott, have really been digging the recent face turn of sorts from her. And I thought this was great. We need more of this stuff on Raw. The backstage segments with her with the Iconics are fine. To set the matches up, that works. But we need to see more of this to make people care about the character more. And I'm glad we get it at all. It's better than nothing. But it's like talking smack when people cut these great promos that we don't see on SmackDown itself. And hopefully they can air this on Raw. I doubt they will, but I thought this was really good. So they then welcome on Titus O'Neil, who talks about everything he's been up to in recent months, years, whatever. He really isn't an in-ring performer anymore for the company. He's more of an ambassador, and a great one of that. So if anyone says, how haven't they released Titus O'Neil, which I may have been in that camp a couple of years ago, definitely no longer. This guy does such great work for the company outside of the ring. Honestly, some more important stuff than what you see on TV in terms of doing the charity work and foundations and charities and donations, all that type of stuff. He's just a genuinely great human being. He talks about how he's been working with Tampa Public Schools the last couple of months specifically. Wants to go to schools and give kids a birthday party who have never had a birthday before. Kids who don't really know what it's like to have people surround you and sing happy birthday and make you feel like the most special person in the world, There's a lot of kids that don't have that. Some things that we take for granted, some other people don't have. And he realizes that, and he wants to help change that and give those kids, their moment and give those kids a memory they'll never forget. He talks about how he hosted a love walk, as it was called, in Tampa just recently, actually with Dave Bautista, who he's very good friends with, to start that systematic change. And I've said this before. They aired a clip of Titus talking, like at a rally. It was during when the whole Black Lives Matter thing first started. I mean, it started a long time ago, but in terms of when it first started up again about a month or two ago, they showed this great clip of O'Neil at like a rally, not ragging on cops, but also not praising them either. He did a great job of saying, we need systematic change, not only in law enforcement, but in housing, in education, everything. Racism is everywhere, and we need to help, stop it now, But it's not just with law enforcement. He said that law enforcement helped save his life, but he doesn't want to just say, just because my experience with them was good, that all law enforcement is good. But he's also not going to say, just because my experience with law enforcement is bad, they're not all bad. And I completely agree with him. And I just the whole thing that he spoke about here I thought was awesome. He talked about how he idolized Martin Luther King growing up, Muhammad Ali, and how cool it was to be a finalist for the Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Award just recently. I don't think he won it, but he was a finalist. But either way, though, I thought this whole thing from Titus was great. If you're looking for storyline stuff, this is not it. This has nothing to do with Raw or WWE TV or whatever. But I thought it was necessary. It was cool. And Titus O'Neil, like I said, just a genuinely great human being. So, again, not the most must-see episode, but I thought this was a very good episode for what it was. Not the most entertaining, but what O'Neil has to say is awesome and is exactly what people need to hear right now. And the Ruby Riott stuff was also very good on another level. So, be sure to check it out right now. Raw Talk for July 6, 2020. And thank you guys, as always, for checking out my videos right here on the channel. For more WWE Network and chill, check out the description box down below. For more Raw Talk reviews, check out the description box down below as well for the two, separate playlists. So coming up this week on the channel, we got hashtag AskGSM episode 345, I believe, 345, on the exact 7-year anniversary of the show, I believe tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. So that's what I'm aiming for, the exact 7-year anniversary live on YouTube. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, if I can get it working, tomorrow afternoon, so stay tuned for that. If you want to join me, ask questions during the show, blah, blah, blah. And I very likely have Alexis on over the phone. So if you want to send in questions for her, for me, for both of us on our anniversary as well, so it kind of works out like that, be sure to check it out right here on YouTube tomorrow. Thursday, Wrestle Rant Radio excerpts. Friday, my review of Sheamus, the Break It Down edition, the Sheamus edition of WWE Break It Down. Where they go back and watch all matches of theirs. They're doing one of those for Sheamus on Friday. My review should be up that day. Saturday, my SmackDown review. And Sunday, my review of a new Chronicle on Jeff Hardy, which I'm anticipating to be very good. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Nonetheless, guys, have a great rest of your week. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.